Jervis back to pass, quick throw, complete,
Yes.
Touchdown Oilers.
A great route that time, and Jason Moore with a nice catch. And
It's Coach Keys Weekly on 88.3 WLFC.
Over the middle, intercepted by Chewy. Chewy across the 40.
Join Coach Keys and the Oilers on-air team as they take a look back at the week that was, discuss what's happening around the conference, and preview the week ahead.
Jervis throws and caught late. Jason Moore went off of the front receiver's hands and right into Jason Moore's hands for the touchdown.
Now, let's join football head coach Rob Keys and the voice of Oiler football, Tim Montgomery.
Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Coach Keys Weekly and a victorious Oiler version of Coach Keys Weekly as the Oilers bounce back. And Coach, you tell me every week that job one is winning the football game, and that's what you did, and in doing so you guys get back to 2-2, you're back to even.
Yeah, and we're not real happy when we lose around this place, and I told him the only way to fix that, the only way to get a cure is to get a win. And I talked to Coach Strom on Friday before the game, and we were talking, and it was funny. He said the team that shoots first is probably going to win. And we shot first. We came out, and we scored, and defense went out and stopped them. And then, like I said, we got some serious momentum, and at the end of the first quarter, we had things pretty much in hand.
Well, and you talk about fueling. That's another thing we always talk about with this team is offense fueling defense and defense fueling offense. And offense comes out 4 plays, scores a touchdown. Defense goes 3 and out, gets the ball back to them. They come right down and score. And that just snowballed positively for you guys, and I think negatively, obviously, for Lake Erie.
Yeah, I mean, they're a decent football team. By no means would I could call Lake Erie a good football team at this point. But the thing is, they needed something good to happen for them to get into the game. And when we scored the first 2 touchdowns, made it 14-0, you could just see that there was a little bit of a deflating effect on Lake Erie, and our guys took advantage of it.
A lot of positive performances to talk about. Let's start with the quarterback, Reese Jervis, as he goes 20 of 26, 324 yards, 5 touchdowns. And of course, he earns GLIAC Player of the Week honors on the offensive side. And to be honest, those numbers could have been just about anything he wanted. At least it appeared that way. He plays a series, maybe 2 in the second half, if I'm counting right. But had backups the second way. He could have really put a number that was ridiculous up there.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the objective, but there's no doubt. I mean, if we wanted to, he could have thrown for I don't know how many yards that game and how many touchdowns. But the thing Reese did, I thought he did a really good job of getting us in the right play. There was a lot of check with me's early on. He made a couple really good checks, got us out of run into pass, and maybe out of not the best run into a better run. So he did a really good job of identifying what they were giving him, and he executed. I mean, he threw some great balls, and no doubt, I mean, he threw 5 touchdown passes in the first half. That's pretty good numbers. I know that he probably could have had 5 or 6 more in the second half if we would have pushed it.
Well, that's what I meant. I didn't mean it from any other standpoint. That he really seemed to be locked in his game. And I think that first scoring drive is a classic example of it. He checked into that pass play. He saw the blitz coming. He knew where Dylan was going to be, and he just made the throw.
Yeah, and he needed to. The last 2 weeks against ODU and Ashland, he was not playing up to his standard and his level, and he knew that, and he worked very hard at it. And I told him, I said, you can't worry about who the opponent is. If Reese Jervis plays at a very high level against any team, he gives us a chance to win. And I told him, I said, you don't need to do more than your job. And he did his job against Lake Erie. He didn't, I thought he managed a couple incompletions he threw rather than trying to force it. He threw the ball away. The only play I didn't like is he took a sack in the last drive right there on a first or second down. He was sprinting right. He should have threw the ball away. But again, it's a learning moment, and we're going to continue to progress. Hopefully he gets better.
Also, I mean, overall 678 yards, and so that also means 322 yards on the ground on 55 carries, and you get yourself quite a bit of balance there, which is something I know you like, and you spread it amongst a number of backs, and I thought all the backs had moments where they looked really good running the football.
Yeah, they did. I think Dowda's starting to see the game a little better. It's only his 4th game as a running back, and it's different than playing high school tailback. And he played defense for the first 2 years of his career, so that's a tough transition to really get that feel at that position. And I thought Chauncey, he ran really well. He made some guys miss, and he does what he does. He does have the ability to hit a home run at any time. And Michael Campbell continues to be that third back, and he does a really good job. He's a physical runner. He runs downhill. So I think we got 3 decent backs that can move the ball, and hopefully those guys will continue to progress. And we sprinkled in a couple other guys at the end. Jordan Jackson got some carries as well as Nate Slagle.
Yeah, I was going to say, you even got to the point to where you were able to keep them healthy, because certainly, as we'll talk about, life doesn't get any easier for the Oilers on the football field, and it gets some other guys some experience. And you mentioned Nick Slagle. How about a day for him? A receiving touchdown, a rushing touchdown. I don't know that you could ask for much more of him than that.
No, he's been battling some ankle injuries, and now he's healthy again, and he gives you a physical presence. So we're excited about him, helping us and kind of give us some more diversity on offense. Not being able just to, maybe run power with different guys. He's a load, and he's very physical at the point of attack, and he's got good hands too. We saw a couple catches that he had on Saturday. But what's great about the performance, there were 58 guys that traveled, and all 58 played. So you talk about a good day. Everybody got a chance to hit the field in live action, and took away a win.
One last thing on the offense, we'll transition to defense, because I thought their day was just about as impressive. You talk about 678 yards. Doesn't matter whether you're running, you're throwing. A lot of credit goes to that offensive line. They really they owned it. I mean, that's the bottom line. They owned that offensive line. Yeah,
they did. And Andrew Alton is such a physical presence in there. I know, after watching the game tape, the first 3 or 4 plays, he takes the linebacker and just drops him on his back 5-6 yards down the field. And it just sends a message to the defense. It's going to be a long day. And it really is. They did a very good job protecting the quarterback. And if Reese has time to throw the ball, he's gonna hurt you. But at the same time, the level of competition is going to be much higher as we move forward.
Well, let's transition to the defense. I mentioned it earlier. After the offense scored, they come out, go 3 and out. And I think it was 3 straight possessions. Maybe it was 3 and out, something in that neighborhood. But there certainly were a load of 3 and outs. And you're talking, you saw all different parts of it. You saw coverage was strong. You saw the pressure on the quarterback was strong. And you guys really seemed to read what they were trying to do in the running game. You were living in the backfield.
Yeah, I like the way the defense played. I think they had 2 first downs in the first half. So they control the tempo, 3 and outs, so the defense is going to be fresh. We didn't have those long extended drives, which wear defenses down. So that was a good point. And I like the way we stopped the guys on. We had a couple of 4th and 1 stops, 4th and 1 plays where they took a big risk at going for it. And Deshaun Scott stepped up and made 2 really big plays on 4th down.
Deshaun Scott was where I was going next. He really, I know that at times there's been a frustration there, but this season it seems like every week he ups his play just a little bit more, and he keeps on making more plays like those.
Yeah, he has. And I give a lot of credit to Deshaun. He was not my favorite player a couple years ago. I thought he was underachieving. I didn't think he was playing very hard. I knew there was more in there. And we just kept pushing. And the thing about it, Deshaun made a decision. And I'm so glad he did, because he's got a ton of physical talent. He's put on a lot of weight. He's very big and very strong in the middle. And if he continues to play the way he is, he's really going to help us solidify the defense.
Let's talk about specials a little bit. One of the few miscues, if there was any, on the day. You did have 1 extra point blocked, but other than that, place kicking, I think, was just about everything you wanted it, including on kickoffs.
Yeah, I thought Tyler did a good job kicking the ball. Kicking off, there was a little bit of wind, and when we kicked off with the wind, he created the touchback situation, and into the wind, he did a good job of kicking the pooch kicks and getting those guys to fair catch it. So the kickoff starting field position was decent. The 1 missed extra point, they just overloaded the wing side, ended up coming through and getting the block. But we adjusted. They did the same thing 3 or 4 more times, and our guys did a good job of making the correction and getting that short up.
I also thought that was one of Patrick Ritt's, not that he got to do it a whole lot, but the punts he had, he really handled well.
I like when he punts twice a game or less. So the one thing about Patrick, like I said, he's been consistent, and that's the key. I tell it to all of our players, if you can be consistently good, it really, really makes you a valuable player, because you can trust him and you can count on him. He's not going to have the 65-yard wild punt. He just doesn't have that in him. But when you ask him to do something, he's consistently going to change the field position, and he's doing a much better job of kicking the ball inside the 20.
I thought your team showed a lot of maturity as well. Sometimes this matchup in the past can get a little bit ridiculous, can get a little silly, but you guys just 2 penalties on the day and really handled yourself. Or sorry, 5 penalties on the day, but still just 35 yards. Nothing big, nothing serious. Really handled their business pretty well.
Yeah, we had offsides on the kickoff. We had a legal man downfield. So there were a couple mistakes in the penalty game, but at times Lake Erie is shown to be a little chippy after the plays, and when they get down, they get a little. So our guys, I told them, I said, steer clear from that stuff, play football, and let's move on. Let's get to the next one.
And one last thing, you also, for the most part, you got the one fumble late and the one fumble early, but really doing a good job of taking care of the football. And at the end of the day, like we said, it's about getting wins. You got the win, and you're at 2-2.
Yeah, I'm not happy with the doubt of fumbling because that's his job, and he practices that every single day. He's a running back, and we work ball security, and he's very strong. When we went to Jordan Jackson, and Jordan's been practicing primarily at corner. So Jordan went in there, and he's not used to carrying the football, and they ripped it away from him. So, all in all, like I said, we have to win the turnover battle. It's one of those games we didn't win the turnover battle, and we end up getting a win. I think our secondary needs to do a better job of picking some passes off when the ball's in the air. Another game with no interceptions.
All right, let's wrap up Lake Erie there, and we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll talk about this week's opponent. I said a moment ago, life doesn't get any easier for the Oilers. They do have 3 home games, but it's 3 big boys. We're going to talk about the first of them when we return to Coach Keys Weekly here on 88.3 WLFC.
Jervis back to pass, quick throw, touchdown Oilers!
Saturday night, the Oilers return home to host the nationally ranked Ferris State Bulldogs.
Over the middle, intercepted by Chewy.
Tim Montgomery will have all the action from Donnell Stadium. Pre-game at 6:45, kickoff at 7 o'clock.
Jervis throws, caught late, and right into Jason Moore's hands for the touchdown.
This is your home for Oiler football, 88.3 WLFC.
Welcome back to Coach Keys Weekly here on 88.3 WLFC. Tim Montgomery and the head coach of the Oilers, Rob Keys, and the Oilers, as we mentioned, get the dominating victory over Lake Erie College this past weekend, 58-13. And as we said, doesn't get any easier. The good news is you're coming home to Donnell Stadium, but a team that has been one of the dominant teams, not just in the GLIAC, but really in the country over the last couple of years, at least statistically, and the Ferris State Bulldogs coming to town.
Yeah, you're looking at the back-to-back GLIAC champs and playoff appearance team, 28 consecutive regular season wins, 28 out of 29. So they are, if they're not the best team in the conference, they're awful close. So.
Yeah, they certainly are. Now, one of the key players of that is gone, Jason Vanderland, and you certainly can't just automatically replace someone like that. But Reggie Bell stepped in, and it's still the same offense, really, at least from what I'm seeing, Coach. It still seems to be pretty much the same offense, just with a different guy in there.
Yeah, and Reggie Bell is a phenomenal athlete. He reminds me of Verlon Reed that we had here a couple years ago. He really can run. He's explosive. He's elusive. He extends plays. He's a strong kid too. So the thing about him, they haven't missed much of a beat when it comes to the numbers. They're putting up the same type of yards, and he's putting the same type of production that Vanderland did in years past. The only thing that we don't have out of him is when it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Vanderland was going to put his shoulder down and run right over top of you. The difference with him, he's going to run right at you and make you miss and get the first down.
Well, you beat me to that because that was going to be my question. That seemed to be the only difference where Vanderland's running game is more of a power game. His seems to be more of an elusive, athletic type of a runner.
Vanderland will just wear you out with punch after punch after punch. Reggie Bell, you've already looked. I've already seen him go for a minimum of 4 plays over 50 yards. So he's a kid that if you give him a little space and you take the wrong angle, he's going to score.
Yeah, but I think to some degree, and I think sometimes people did this with Vanderland as well, they underestimate his throwing abilities sometimes. And this young man, 83 out of 136 for 880 yards already on a pretty young season.
Yeah, he could throw the ball, and he's got some really good wide receivers. And their scheme's tough to defend. They're so heavily involved in the run game, and they lull you to sleep, and a lot of crossing patterns and wheel routes and getting guys, flooded into the zone. And the receivers are good. They're all very fast. They're very quick, and it's going to be a big task to slow this Ferris State offense down. I mean, not too many people in the last 4 years have slowed them down.
Yeah, Reggie Bell by himself, just under 1,300 yards already on the season, rushing and passing. But just about the time you over-focus on him, Jahan Brown really kind of jumps off of the page. And we saw a little bit of that last year, I thought, as well.
Yeah, he's a very powerful running back. And I got introduced to Jahan Brown in 2014 when he returned a 100-yard kickoff against us to start the second half. And I watched him break about 6 tackles, and I was like, wow, that's a really good freshman. And he's even a better junior. So I really like the way he plays. He's very strong. He's very physical. You know, he's a prototypical GLIAC running back. He's fast and powerful.
Well, yeah, and even the other guys behind him, you talk about the sophomore Robert Thomas, and then Jamel Lockett also gets some runs in there. And again, we've been seeing this for the last several years, ever since Coach Anisi has gotten there. They kind of rotate. They have their own special rotation, and yeah, there's the one back, and yeah, there's the quarterback. But then they work those other guys in, and they try to catch you sleeping with them.
Yeah, all the slot backs with the jet sweeps and some of the option game. You know, Jamal Lockett is one of the better players in their offense. You know, he's a vet. He's played a ton of football, and then you have Shaq Sanders. You know, they are loaded when it comes to the skill spot on offense. And then if you look at their offensive line, you know, size-wise, they're as big as anybody in the league. They return multiple starters up front. So, you know, they are a top offense in this country. And, you know, we're going to have to do a really good job of trying to control the line of scrimmage. And we got to eliminate the big plays. You know, we can't give up, 15, 20-plus yard runs. And we can't give up any big passes because, you're going to have to make them earn it. And I think, watching Northwood, they did a pretty good job of defending them. And they tried to eliminate some of the big plays, but ultimately, you can't focus on one guy. You gotta do your job, and you gotta do your job really well.
Yeah, that really is, because at one point they will go in phases, it seems like, and certainly has been the case over the last few years when we faced them. Is they'll go through times where they just try to grind you, and they just try to meat grind you up 3-5 yards at a pop, but then other times they go over the top, and I'm not sure which way is worse, Coach.
Well, I would rather have neither happen to us, but the big thing with them, like I said, they do a really good job. Coach Anise does an excellent job. He calls the plays. And he does a really good job of taking what the defense gives them. And I know one thing, if he finds a weakness, whether it's personnel or scheme, he's going to attack it quite a bit until you make an adjustment.
Well, of course, over the last several years, you get a Harlan Hill winner and everything else that goes along with that. And a lot of the focus with Ferris State is usually on that offense, and somewhat understandably so. But I think that defense has been kind of under-recognized over the last few years. And you and I remember talking last year, going into last year's game, you talked about those big war daddies they have in the front, and they just keep on rolling those boys in there.
Well, they still have the same guys. They did graduate the big defensive tackle inside, but they are very big up front. They play multiple guys. And at the linebacker spot, the Darkangelo kid is back, and he really is an anchor in there. He does an excellent job. And Huckabee's the other linebacker. Those kids are back, and they know what it is to play physical GLIAC football. And they are a little underrated when it comes to, all the talk on defense, but not for me. They are as good on defense as they are on offense, and they're loaded with skill, and they're loaded with good football players. You watch them tackle, you watch them get off blocks, and you watch them play. They're very disciplined, and they play very hard. And they're just as good as the other side of the ball. And I know, their offense has gotten a lot of press because of the quarterback that graduated. But, if you look at it, you got a Harlan Hill winner, back-to-back. You have multiple playoff appearances. You have back-to-back conference titles. Recruiting, man, the best players in Michigan are going to Ferris State. It used to be all Grand Valley, and they're beating Grand Valley on some kids. So the type of talent that Ferris State has right now, they're national caliber type talent.
Well, you talk about all the wins here that they've been running off the last several weeks. They are going to be coming off a loss, 39-31. Took on, and that was at home against Ashland, an Ashland team. But even before that, and I think this is something to their credit. I mean, and go back to the matchup where I think everybody thought you guys had their number. You guys had them pegged off. But this is a team that doesn't panic. They played in 2 close games, 3 including the loss here, 30-28 at Michigan Tech. They get that win. And then, as you pointed out, Northwood, I thought, played them very strongly. And they needed to, take it right to the limit to get a 27-26. This is a team that's used to playing in those matchups and can play in those matchups if they need to.
Yeah, it tells a lot about the character of the kids. I mean, they never die, they fight, and that's what winning football teams do. That's why they've won so many games. These kids aren't going to quit, and it's no different. We talked about the pregame against Ashland. To beat a Ferris State team, you're going to have to play 4 complete quarters and then some, and you're going to have to take it from them. I mean, they're not going to give you anything. It's not a team that's going to be down 14 or down 7 or whatever, or hey, it's the last drive. They're going to play all the way to the final bell. We're going to have to do the same. And our kids have yet to. This team this year has been in that position against ODU. We had a shot to come back and couldn't get it done. So, we're gonna have to learn how to win one in the fourth quarter here against Ferris State.
Well, let's go ahead, Coach, and let's take each part of the game here a little bit. What is the offense in particular going to have to do for the Oilers to come out with a win here?
We got to eliminate the 3 and outs. That's what Ferris State does. They did to us last year in the second half. We were clicking on all cylinders in the first half. We moved the ball. We scored some touchdowns, and we have to eliminate the 3 and outs. We go 3 and out. It really takes our offense out of that rhythm. So we got to make sure that we're getting some first downs, and we need to capitalize in the red zone. Watching last year, we were in a situation a couple times. Right before half, we were down in there and didn't score, and then in the third quarter, we had a chance to score again and had to settle for a field goal. So field goals won't win against Ferris. We got to score touchdowns.
Let's transition it to the other side of the ball. Defense, what's it going to take to slow down this high-powered offense?
We need some takeaways. We have to get some takeaways because Ferris State's one of those teams. Even though they lost to Ashland, they put up almost 600 yards of offense. So they're going to move the ball. And, am I going to concede that? No, I'm hoping we stop them every time. But, we have to understand, our defense has to understand that ball is going to be moved. And they're going to get some first downs on us. But we got to be able to not to give up the big plays. And we're going to have to steal some takeaways. We're going to have to get some takeaways, either an interception or forced fumbles, and give us extra possession that way. Because, if they get in sync and they get in rhythm, they could put up 50 in a heartbeat.
We talk about it all the time. 2, 3, 4 plays within a game can really be a difference maker, and certainly those plays can come on special teams, guys.
Yeah, they're very, very good kickoff coverage. The kicker's excellent. He puts the ball in the end zone or deeper. They have a great return game with Jahan Brown back as the kickoff return guy. So, you talk about kicking to him. I'm always nervous. But same thing with our guys. I thought we did a really good job week 1, 2, and 3 getting better on the special teams. I thought we were really complete, especially against Ashland. As bad as the score was, I thought special teams played really well. This week, we did not play great on special teams. I thought we took a step back. So we need to be better. We need to be fundamentally sound, and we need to be able to maybe generate some big plays in the kicking game, whether it's a big punt return or a big kickoff return or a forced fumble somehow.
All right. Good to be back home at Donnell Stadium. It'll be a 7 o'clock kickoff. We'll have pregame right about 6:45 live from Donnell Stadium. Coach, as always, we appreciate your time, and let's get another win out there.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. That's going to wrap up Coach Keys Weekly for this week. Thanks to Coach for joining us. I'm Tim Montgomery. We'll see you next time for Coach Keys Weekly and Oiler Football on 88.3 WLFC.
Jervis back to pass, quick throw, complete,
Yes.
Touchdown Oilers.
A great route that time, and Jason Moore with a nice catch. And
Thank you for listening to Coach Keys Weekly.
Over the middle, intercepted by Chewy. Chewy across the 40.
Tune in every Tuesday night during the season for your connection to Coach Keys and Oiler football.
Jervis throws and caught late. Went off of the front receiver's hands and right into Jason Moore's hands for the touchdown.
This is your home for Oiler football. 88.3 WLFC.